Well, you know, sustainability is a very wide topic, often difficult to ring fence, given that we need to be thinking about sustainability in every aspect of our business. But that said, activities that influence climate change and decarbonisation will certainly remain an agenda priority for MSC Cruises. You know, we talk about this as being the biggest issue of our time, but it's really much more than that. For shipping, it will be by far the biggest challenge that we've ever faced. We'll need to continue to support efforts to develop new technologies and ensure that they're fit for purpose. We'll also work collaboratively to encourage a scale up of the fuels that are essential to meet our net zero emissions 2050 target. This is a target that we set for ourselves, but that many in the broader industry have set. It's very clear and widespread now. And additional to that are other environment-related challenges: resource use and waste management, local air quality, ensuring the well-being of our crew, and getting back on track with learning, development, leadership, training, to ensure that we can attract and retain the right talent, including, and very importantly, the know-how needed to support technology development and innovation. And as well as driving those expectations down our supply chain, it's all part of future-proofing a sustainable business.
So for us, I think it's important to say that sustainability has been one of our main priorities over many, many years, because everything we do is connected with sustainability in one or the other way. And I do think that we also all agree that sustainability is much more than only technology. And emerging from the pandemic, we strongly believe that also our guests will join us in demanding more change, more action, more decarbonization, more diversity, more plant-based food, and more science projects. So, but for 2022, I think for us as a company, the single most important thing we will focus on is to continue to work close with the local communities we are visiting. From Galapagos to South America, across the Arctic, Americas and Africa, and all the other places we are visiting. Because supporting the local communities is extremely important for us, generating local value creations to secure local jobs, and from this also facilitate for a sustainable growth. And as a company and also as an industry, we have a huge obligation, but we also have a huge opportunity to make a difference.
Well, Landry and Kling's sustainability agenda was actually driven by COVID. We had an opportunity to see what remote working style is like. And by going remotely, we've been able to take a look at what do we have in the office, because we still go in. We go in once a week to see each other, but we pretty much are then scattered, throughout the week and talking to each other through our online different services that we have. But we decided to get rid of our phone system and recycle all those plastic phones. We've gotten rid of our desktop computers, or about to, and we're going completely to an environment of laptops with docking stations so that we can operate around the world. We've also become more global in the past few years, and so our clientele base is all over the world. So it's really helped us going remotely, that we can work from anywhere and be anywhere and meet with clients anywhere. And we're just, again, looking at all of our processes to make them a little bit more sustainable. And in addition, we have a web platform that we started during COVID, which is sustainableships.com. And this year we're putting a lot of effort. We just had a strategic planning meeting into making it a true resource for the industry. So on our site, we have all of the cruise line sustainability practices and their statements, and it's one place that people can go into and see it all. We're planning on coming in this year with an initiative to identify who we think are the most sustainable cruise lines, cruise ships, and more importantly, kind of cruise destinations, packaging all together, because it's not just the ship, it has to do with where they're traveling to as well, that becomes sustainable. So we'll be doing more of that on the site this year, and just really working hard to make that a voice for the sustainability in the industry, and a place that people can go for resources and to understand more about what is the cruise industry doing regarding sustainability.
Well, of course, sustainability is more and more at the top of our mind. And at the end of 2021, we have announced, I would say the most important thing that we are doing at the moment is the announcement of our Evolution project, our new build, the Silver Nova, that will come out of Meyerwerft in, mid 2023, which is really a ground, like a revolutionary project, I would say. So we call it evolution, but this is a revolution. So the vessel, in terms of sustainability, will have features that are unheard of so far. And I'm referring mainly, of course, to the propulsion system, where we will have like a multi-fuel, a dual fuel vessel, which will be able to burn both marine gas oil and LNG. But in addition to that, there will also be fuel cell available and batteries, which means that it's going to be a multi-hybrid vessel capable to use different types of fuel, and with a great flexibility. And the fuel cell is probably the most interesting news, because the vessel will be able to operate in port on fuel cell alone, which means that in that condition, the vessel will not have any local emission at all, nothing whatsoever. And this combines with a number of other features that are more commonly available. They're not always available, they're more commonly available. That definitely makes the Silver Nova the most, I would say, advanced project, I would say, ever announced so far, and which is particularly interesting because we are now talking about a ship that is not a 200,000 GRT, but her gross tonnage will be about 50,000. So on that small size, it's not easy to put all of those features together. So, and this shows what type of commitment we have in sustainability. And so 2022, I consider that to be the beginning of the year, because that was announced at the end of 21. And there will be a lot more to it that will be announced shortly. I think that the number one thing that I would suggest people to go is to look into our corporate website, the Royal Caribbean corporate website. We publish a sustainability report, and from there you can see the very interesting and the very many initiatives in sustainability that we have put in place and we will be putting in place in the months and years to come.
So from a Cruise Britain perspective, I think understanding what is required and where the best practice is and how best to achieve. I think there are a number of things on our agenda. I think after the government, UK government, published the Transport Decarbonisation Plan last year, which identified ports and harbours as key in the marine sector, that has become quite important, with us moving towards net zero by decarbonising our own operations as ports and working with stakeholders and partners to do the same. There are government plans, I believe, for a 22 consultation to establish targets for the UK domestic maritime sector, which will encourage the sourcing of alternative fuels for harbour vessels. Indeed, a number of our Cruise Britain members are already doing a number of these initiatives already. So, for example, Svitzer have a 90% reduction in towage emissions by running biofuel on their tugs, so they have alternatively powered tugs. A number of our members use already the hybrid and electric vehicles, so the likes of Liverpool, Southampton, Portland, Solent, Stevedores and Tyne. There is also, Portsmouth have a great example of using seawater harvesting for the terminal heating and cooling, and a number of different members use solar panels. I think also there's a great example in Orkney in their excursions office, it's 100% powered by wind turbine. So again, another example of energy efficient buildings. And we will be continuing to focus on this during 2022. I think also emissions at birth is another topic on our sustainability agenda. A lot of ports are looking at the alternative requirements. I know a number of vessels are using scrubbers within a port environment. I think probably from a Cruise Britain perspective, we need a more cohesive and clear approach on this. Shore power as well. I think this will come back up the agenda, and whether the government will turn their attention to encouraging this, but there is considerable concern over the commercial business case for many ports. And so I think, again, we need to look at that and the funding requirements. And there are a number, again, of our members that are already doing this. Southampton have a couple of berths, Orkney have a berth, and I know another couple of our members, at least Portsmouth and Portland, are planning shore power. So again, I think these are both very good examples of the sort of focus that we will be giving at Cruise Britain. From a Port of Tyne point of view, we are very much focused on sustainability. The first example is electrification. We've completed a port-wide survey with UK power networks to understand the current and future electricity requirements. And we're currently undertaking and looking at essentially diverting as much electricity consumption as possible to come from clean, renewable sources. And so far, we've reduced our carbon emissions by nearly 30% by switching to clean energy and electrification. We are also at the Port of Tyne looking at 5G. Really, digital transformation lies at the heart of the port sustainability plan, and we're just about to install 5G infrastructure port-wide. We believe we're the first port in the UK to entirely self-fund this six-figure investment, because we believe it's key to achieving one of our Tyne 2050 goals to become a testbed for new clean energy and innovation and technology. And we can also offer customers advanced technology, for instance, robotics and autonomous vehicles. Plus, we're able to offer customers operational monitoring solutions to reduce unnecessary expenditure and conserve energy consumption. So again, a really helpful addition to our plan. And also, we're the first UK port to join the Connected Ports Partnership. And as a membership, it places us at the forefront of driving innovation in international logistics. We share logistics systems, which means we can pool data and resources to help drive industry-wide efficiency and cost reduction with world trade lanes and reduce carbon emissions. And I think by pooling our data with other members, we're aiming to transform the way ports operate and again, help them become more sustainably viable.
I believe we'll see a lot more progress in 2022 when it comes to innovation. For MSC, we'll be introducing our first LNG powered vessel into the fleet later this year. And whilst it's still a fossil fuel, it is much cleaner and has a significantly lower carbon footprint. I believe we'll be having many more conversations on the future availability of non-fossil fuel based alternative fuels, such as bio or synthetic LNG, green methanol, green hydrogen. And as we forge ahead with the technical solutions, we need these new zero emissions fuel to use with these solutions. We'll have a fuel cell on our first LNG ship, and these fuel cells work in a completely different way than traditional combustion engines. The mechanism of electrolysis creates heat and electrical energy much more efficiently, and we need to get this type of technology tested and, if successful, scaled up. And whilst these fuel cells that we're using can operate on LNG, ideally we need them once scaled up to be able to use green methanol or green hydrogen as a feedstock. The other point for 2022, I think the regulatory environment will continue to evolve, putting much more pressure on all the stakeholders. The Fit for 55 proposal of measures in Europe are a good example of the pressure placed on industry to ensure government zero emissions goals can be met. But we do need to ensure that the government ambition isn't unfairly ahead of the practical capabilities to meet their expectations.
I think it will be very interesting to see how the discussion on decarbonization will evolve in 2022. And I personally think that across all sectors, we will see more discussions on new technology and more sustainable renewable energy sources. And this will, of course, impact not only the cruise industry, but the entire travel industry. And especially it will have a huge impact for operators like us who are looking for growth opportunities and potentially also adding new capacity to the fleet. Because when you build a ship, you will make a lot of choices. As we all know, it's a quite extensive process, but you will then need to choose what technology you would have. And that decision we make today will potentially have a huge impact over the next 4 to 5 decades. So what I think will be important is that we will continue to challenge ourselves and also challenge the entire industry, because from that we can also, again, make a difference.
What's really interesting about the industry, actually, it's really globally about tourism in general, but there are a lot of goals that are being placed out there. And we are so excited to see this. You know, we have the 2030 IMO goals, we have the UN sustainability goals for 2030, and we have the cruise industry's own goals for 2050, a little bit pushed out further, but they have a ways to go to, to move from the older ships to the newer ships to the newer technology. But we're seeing the trend looking at of course, the fuel. That's a number one factor, and new shipbuilding coming out with the LNG technology. And LNG, people say to me, well, that's not the answer. No, it's not the ultimate answer. You know, just like the next level of any of our energy is not the only answer, but it's a place to start. And it's a place to start to get to where the goals are going to finally be realized, which will help to be a cleaner environment. I also see the ports starting to really step up here. It will be great to see that renovated and updated, to begin to accept the electrical hookups from the ships that have it. So ships are having it, ship technology has come out for it, but our ports are not able to really accept it yet. So better in Europe, a lot of European ports are far more forward thinking, especially the Baltic has a lot of restrictions there right now, and they're restricting ships from coming in unless they can meet certain guidelines. So I see the United States coming up, stepping up. Caribbean is still the largest cruising destination. So it's really incumbent on us to be able to have the ships sail out of the ports in Florida in particular, and actually other areas in the States, and that can step up and be a part of this. So, again, it's not just the ship technology. We could have the most sustainable ships in the world, but if they don't have the ports to be able to dock, if they don't have the islands that will accept that type of technology, then, it's really not, it's not the whole answer.
I think that it's worth mentioning, as I said, I was mentioning about our sustainability report. And when you go and read that report, you realize that we are working on our KPIs, on our goals, together with independent external entities. And we are working very closely with WWF in agreeing with them what are the goals that we have to give ourselves for the foreseeable future. And we have them certifying, checking, and making sure that our reporting is according to agreed standards, and therefore, it gives a sense of how serious we are about it, so that we are working with such a reputable organization to establish our sustainability goals, which is not only sustainability, but is also governance and related activities. And so we have them helping us establishing our goals, and we have them verify that what we report in our annual report that is done together with them is done according to proper standards, to make sure that what we measure is measured in a way that can be accepted by all the players around it. So, and when you go there, you will see, just to give you an example, that we have a stake into a wind farm in Kansas. They offset more than 10% of our emissions. We are all about sustainable food. We are all about sustainable destinations. We are all about governance. We are all about those very important activities that are definitely very, I would say, very much at the top of our mind. And not only of us, because our stakeholders, they look for that, and they want to make sure that we are doing the right things, and including, like I say, this is a very much capital intensive business, so we all need to access financing. And if we don't do the right things in that sense, life is going to be tougher and tougher.
I think the industry, as I've mentioned previously, is in pursuit of net carbon neutral cruising by 2050. I think we need to look at broader initiatives as to how the supply chain works to support and achieve this. And I think, engagement, a wider engagement in understanding how to deliver this with best practice, because I think a lot of the industry often goes above and beyond these initiatives. So I think we need to look both inside and outside the industry. I know there's a number of things that are being introduced at the moment, green tariff initiatives, for example, and discussions around how we can change charging structures to incentivize greener vessels to operate in ports. And I think also European Fit for 50, we need to understand the impact of European port initiatives on UK ports and cruise deployment. So I think there are a number of things there that are interesting broader initiatives that we will be following this year.
In terms of sustainability trends for this year, decarbonisation for sure, but also more tangible kind of consumer concerns, such as the use of single-use plastics. We've worked very hard since 2018 to eliminate most of the single-use plastic from our ship operations. And in fact, before COVID, our buffet service was single-use plastic free. But of course, COVID has required the introduction of some plastic items to meet the health and safety protocol. Many of these relating to testing kits and the personal protective equipment, for example. I also believe there's going to be greater expectations around managing resource use, consumption, waste management in general to support the circular economy, eliminating things that we don't need, reusing what we have now as much as possible. And of course, this does also support ultimately climate change mitigation. I believe that greater transparency and measurable progress will be expected. There's increasing skepticism regarding greenwashing, and there's going to be growing pressure from civil society to change and to be more transparent. For example, we're working hard on numerous industry collaborations to test new technologies, and we need to do more of this and start implementing these technologies to show that we're generally moving forward. I think these this year and the next few years are vital in making the right decisions for the ships of the future. We need to lock down technology that needs to be on our ships for 30 years. So we need to have the right information to make the right decisions if we're going to meet our 2050 net zero emissions goal.
First, I think 2022 will be a very interesting year for the cruise industry because, again, emerging from the pandemic, I think it's maybe more important than ever for all industry players to show that we are actually serious about sustainability. There has been a lot of talk over many years, but now it's definitely time to see more action. And we saw trends before the pandemic where guests are being more and more cautious on where they want to travel and who they want to travel with. And I think we should expect that guests will demand more sustainable actions from all of us. And I do think that 2022 is the year where we'll be put to the test. And this is also the year where we have to deliver.
I would like to see, I hope we see a trend in shipbuilding that is going to bring the ships back down to a size that is more sustainable. Because we have to look at the density issue too. It's not just, again, how the ships are technologically advanced. It's the density, the people. How many people are we bringing into a port of call? How much is too much? how much is going to stretch the ports from being able to handle and manage the trash, the sustainability, the fuel, and so on. So, you know, we really have to take a big look at the overall picture and not just think about cruise ship sustainability, but cruise travel sustainability, and incorporate everything, you know, from the local people to the ports to the all of our vendors, and really hold everybody accountable for sustainability and make it a much bigger goal.
Concentrating on what are the ships of the future is going to be extremely important, and having plans that are proven to be very solid, with the possibility, because it's just not enough to say within 15 years I will be you know, like zero emission. You need to go step by step and explain how you get there, what are the steps that you are taking, and what are, I mean, the milestones that will have to be reached in order for you to confirm that your sustainability program will comply and will match the dates and the goals that you are referring to people. So we will more and more see companies like us that work together with third parties to make sure that those things are done properly and are done in a way that is measurable, and measurable also step by step. And we will see a lot of, I would say, new things coming in terms of, you know, future plans for what will be the ship of the future, what will be the way we manage destination in the future, what will be we are treat our employees and our guests from now on, and the governance also is going to be top of mind. So I think that we will see a lot of great things coming, and which, by the way, they are already there, they are happening today. We are all just distracted by an environment where there is a lot of news of different nature that are distracting, I mean, you know, ourselves, but the focus is very high for all of us, and all of us as an industry, then we need to get there, and we need to show our great commitment, which I can tell you is very serious and very real.
From an individual and business perspective, the need and demand for sustainable products is greater than ever. And I think we are all probably mindful of our actions and impacts on the planet. So I think every business needs to be monitoring emissions, energy and water consumption, levels of waste, and we all need a strategy in place to reduce them. So I think probably in terms of trends this year, we will probably see a greater focus on marine protection and biodiversity. I know that the government designation of protected areas exists. The issue is not the reluctance to protect them, but ensuring there's optimum gain for the environment whilst balancing the economic investment needs. So again, there are examples, things like beach and breakwater cleaning at many ports. I know Falmouth are doing seagrass wilding, and also, you know, we need to understand how we fund these and measure the effectiveness of these initiatives going forward. I think another sustainability trend will be looking at the sustainability of shore excursion products and in general. And I know a lot of cruise lines at the moment are looking and practicing a lot of these shore excursion ideas. So obviously transport options, no emission coaches, no idling, electric cars for transfers, things like that. But I think there are also pressure on attractions during peak periods. So it's how we manage that in terms of the impact on the environment. And I think also there's possibly an interesting development of diverse and niche shore excursions that combine the two. So they all deliver minimal pressure on the environment. So it might be beach cleaning as part of shore excursions, or collecting rubbish and turning them into designer products. I think there's a lot of examples out there of combining the two. And I think also another trend will be just a continued focus on air quality, emissions, and those green initiatives. Many ports are now monitoring in conjunction with their city and tying into initiatives the impact on the environment. And I think also we will see further development in terms of new terminals, building state-of-the-art green infrastructure, and being very mindful of those building developments. So perhaps waste to energy initiatives, things like water filtration systems, and further development of these initiatives. But I think as an industry, we need to probably say more about what we do, and communicate more effectively the industry's efforts, because I think often we go above and beyond, and I think that would be helpful to communicate exactly what we're doing as an industry, because I think we'll continue to develop, but we've come a long way already.